Hello everyone, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and I thought I'd run out a deck with no legendaries in it today and have a little bit of fun. This is a very silly sort of aggro Yeti deck that I've designed called the Yeti Flip. We are still experimenting with it, still playing with the numbers and figuring out what works the best, but I have had some fun with it so far. It's been reasonably competitive, at least, enough to, like, break even, and I think it's kind of a fun one to play around with, and I wanted to encourage people to fiddle around with it and experiment with it and see what they could do with it, because I like it quite a bit, and I was hoping that other people would like it as well. So here's what we've got. This is the Yeti Flip. So the idea behind this is that we have a number of Yeti in Eternal which have more health than they have attack, despite being fairly aggressive units. We have Iceberg Frontrunner, the 1/2 charge, Powderglider, the 1/2 with the stun ability that also benefits from playing spells. We have cards like Yeti Sage that have even amounts of strength and power, and we have Yeti Spy, of course, as well as Iceberg Mason, the card that buffs Yetis one closer to the top and gets us a little bit better. And in addition, or it gets us like a little bit more consistent Yetis and makes it so that it's harder to basically draw power. And combined with cards like Wump, cards like the new Pokpok Rockpacker, which is one of the all-stars of this deck, of course, we have sort of this style of Yeti aggro that is actually very heavily focused on units that don't have more attack than power. We have just Champion of Fury here and Cinder Yeti, both of which are far too good not to include in a Yeti deck. And beyond that, basically everything here is actually kind of defensive and a little bit on the side of the good. So it's just like, it doesn't quite have that same amount of aggro to it. So as a result, I wanted to do something fun with this, and that is to run Accelerated Impact into this deck as a 4 of Splash. We've been wanting to do a couple more of these decks lately where there is just one card out of color, because the Crest and Seat setup that we can put together makes it very easy to actually splash for a particular color. By using Crest of Wisdom, Crest of Impulse, and Crest of Fury together with Seat of Fury and Skycrag banner to make sure that we can get that Champion of Fury out, we are able to play Accelerated Impact with astonishing regularity, and in addition, we can get some really cool benefits out of it. So let's talk a little bit about how this deck works. Basically, it is pretty standard sort of aggressive Yetis. We have 12 1-drops, Yeti Spy, Powderglider, and Frontrunner. Yeti Spies fix a little bit to get more drops, and then our 2-drops, Champion of Fury, Iceberg Mason, and Yeti Sage, are also relatively aggressive, while also fixing for more Yetis and making our stuff a little bit faster. At the top, we have Cinder Yeti, Wump Party Starter, who of course buffs all the other Yetis into the point where they are actually very scary, and Pokpok Rockpacker, who bonds with certain Yetis to get himself some snowballs and get himself a little bit of an advantage. This card's really solid if you can play it off of a Cinder Yeti. Basically, any turn where you are on turn 3 and you just warp a Cinder Yeti off the top, or you play a Cinder Yeti down, you can Pokpok for free and just get an extra dude who isn't very beneficial as an aggressor, except that he's extra stats, but is extremely beneficial as an aggressor if you have Accelerated Impact, because Pokpok has more health than any other Yeti. So he'll frequently be a 6 or a 7 damage unit with an Accelerated Impact, and you can very rapidly turn a Yeti board into something kind of crazy. So the 2-star cards here are Accelerated Impact and Eilyn's Intervention. Eilyn's Intervention counters hailstorms, which is always really critical, but the main thing that it does is it gives all of your Yeti +3 health in a turn. So when we combine that with Accelerated Impact, preferably after casting Accelerated Impact, but before combat damage goes into our opponent's face, we are able to just set up a really interesting and huge board in a very short period of time. So for example, an Accelerated Impact on a Powderglider, a Pokpok, and a Wump Party Starter is an additional +1/+1 to a Powderglider that already has +1/+1, plus another +1/+1 for the spell, so the Powderglider does 5. On Pokpok, it's 6 up to 7. So you get another 7 off of that, and then Wump himself gets another +3, so we get to deal, like a good 15 damage with these 3 units just off of Accelerated Impact. Basically, boards that have 3 to 4 Yetis on them can frequently be lethal, and this is really key if we're playing against some of those aggressive decks that want to like just sort of get to their harsh rules and then be totally done with it. They're not going to see the threat coming because we're playing kind of sort of slower Yetis, and then we can just flip the tables on them and use Accelerated Impact to totally blow them out. Eilyn's Intervention makes this incredibly more devastating. It is basically a one-cost better rally with Accelerated Impact, and it's also just a good way to keep your Yetis alive against Hailstorms, which is a card that you kind of want to deal with right now. Now, the main thing about aggro combo is that we aren't super reliant on the combo. We do have a very decent critical mass of Yetis, and we're using Flash Freeze and Torches to make sure that we get those Yetis through and deal enough damage to sort of get across. But nonetheless, like, the combo is probably the most important part of the deck. We're not as fast as most other aggro decks. We do really want to draw an Accelerated Impact if we can. Fortunately, the crests help out with that quite a bit, and the fact that we have 3 different varieties of crests is really crucial to that. It makes the deck a little bit slower, and indeed we could play with these power numbers a little bit more if we wanted to figure out some ways to make the deck a little bit more aggressive. Maybe cut the Champion of Furies down, move into common causes. There's a lot to work with and a lot of interesting experiments to play around with. Anyways, we're going to play a few games and show you how it works and just have a little bit of fun with it. I wouldn't say this is a competitive list. It's just nice, and it's just an amusing thing to do with Yetis that maybe you haven't done before. And it's also pretty on the cheap side. There's not a lot of expensive cards here. The crests are pretty expensive. There's plenty of rares in here, but no legendaries at all, so plenty of stuff that you can play around with, and of course you can swap most of these Yetis out for other Yetis if you choose to. So yeah, let's go ahead and run a game and show you how it works. Alright, here we are up against Emperor Badger. I've got a Crest of Impulse, Primal Sigil, an Iceberg Frontrunner, and Hopes and Dreams. I think this is actually pretty reasonable. We'll play it. So the main thing here is that we got Iceberg Mason, which can get us some extra stuff. I'd like to draw 3rd power before I play Iceberg Mason, but I'm not too worried if I don't. Like, it's not actually that big a deal. So we'll go ahead and play the Crest here. Cinder Yeti can stay on top, I think. I actually think I'd rather try and find an Eilyn's Intervention or something along those lines. We're going to leave the Cinder Yeti alone. It's a good card draw card, and it's a good way to actually force damage through, but I have Yetis to play for basically my next couple of turns, and I've got Accelerated Impact in hand. So that means that what I really want to do here is play out either Iceberg Mason or Iceberg Frontrunner. Let's go Iceberg Mason. And then we'll put a bunch of Yetis on top, and then we can throw out Wump, we can throw out Pokpok. It'll be a great time. Alright, so Skycrag Banner into Wump. Pokpok can now play on the Iceberg Mason, which then deals another damage to him, and we get a snowball. Got all of the necessary Yetis to make some shenanigans happen. I've also got the Iceberg Frontrunner in hand, so my current amount of damage, and we have to count this pretty carefully because it's absolutely absurd, right? This is 5, 7, and 10, 15, plus 3 from the Iceberg Frontrunner, plus 1 from a snowball, plus 1 from Wump. Oh no! The Purify does solve that problem pretty well. Okay, well, that's okay. We'll live with that. We're gonna throw another Iceberg Mason, because we can. Attack for 3. I should have played the Iceberg Frontrunner as well. Could have gotten an extra point of damage there. Totally whiffed it. Yeti Sage is interesting. I think I'm really looking for Eilyn's Intervention at this point, but that is potentially a pretty good card. Okay, Blink Wolf is definitely a card. From here, I have to consider if I can actually win. I can't. We can't Snowball here. And then I can Bond Pokpok if I so choose. I would really like to Bond Pokpok, so maybe I'll Bond Pokpok on a Pokpok. Or rather, Bond Pokpok on that 1/2. And we'll attack for 5. I've got a Snowball, so I can knock this Abrax Familiar a new one. Alright, getting a little bit of damage in. And we've got a wide enough board that we're ready to go on the Accelerated Impact, so let's do the flip. Let's do a flip. We got a flip. Let's flip it. Okay. Imperial Armor seems like a pretty interesting card, but it's not going to beat Accelerated Impact. Let's go! Alright, so that's 12, 23. I got a little greedy waiting for that flip there, but it was a good flip. And what do you know, we're level 62 in Fire Influence. Alright, one more. Let's flip it. Flip it good. What do we got? We got a Crest of Impulse, a Crest of Fury. I've got Yeti to play. This is pretty good. Like, the sheer number of Yeti here makes this kind of good. I don't love that I don't have anything to play and that I'm second, but if I draw, like, an undepleted power, this hand gets better, or we could just tough it out. We'll play a Crest of Fury, we'll play a Crest of Impulse next turn. Iceberg Mason is hilarious here because we've got basically nothing but Yetis for the next, like, 5 turns, so should be good. Should be good. I basically never stop playing Yetis, so as long as we can, like, hold the fort for a while, we'll be in pretty good shape. Right here. Alright, Crest of Impulse looks good here. Now, the thing about Yeti Spy here is that I can... Okay, so another Crest of Fury is interesting. I think I'm really trying to just dig for the Accelerated Impact, and every Iceberg Mason that we play is going to help us out with that. So I've got Champion of Fury here. I've got Wump Party Starter. We've got a lot to work with. Got the double Iceberg Masons. Basically, it's just going to be a huge party regardless of what happens. My opponent could be playing Hailstorm. We'll see. Crest of Fury looks good here. We did draw a Crest of Impulse, so we got necessary extra stuff. Wump is definitely worth keeping on board. And we'll go ahead and play a Champion of Fury. And I think we'll hit him in the face for 4. Looks pretty good to me. I can bond Pokpok here for free, but we can do that later. There's no immediate hurry. Now, if I can get 2 Wumps down before I get Hailstorm, that would be delightful. I'm really curious if this is like Elysian mid-range stuff, or if it's going to be something else. Looks like he doesn't have his Hailstorm yet. Or maybe he does and he's just emoting? I don't know. Stuff's happening. We'll see. Alright, he found another Wisdom, so he's definitely... If he has Hailstorm in his deck, we might see it. Cobalt Waystone gets him a little something. Nothing too crazy. We'll go ahead and play our Wump here. Crest of Impulse. And there's a Flash Freeze, which is absolutely a card I want right now. Now, Pokpok can be played on my 5/3, but I think just getting in 7 damage and getting a draw is way more crucial. And perhaps he will Hailstorm us here, but if he does, we got Pokpok, we got Wump, we got so much stuff it doesn't matter. Alright, Hailstorm there, but we're still at 16, so let's Iceberg Mason, Iceberg Mason. And then I'm guessing I have some Yeti on the top of my deck. Hard to say. Could be really anything. We'll see. Primal Sigil there. Would have been really nice to get 2 Wumps down because we would have actually been resistant to the Hailstorm, but you can't have everything.
Death from across the sands.
Okay, I don't love that. Let's go ahead and play Wump. Which gets us a bonded Pokpok. And a Yeti Spy, which draws us a card and deals another damage to his face. And maybe he'll split off a buddy to kill Wump, but if he does, we've still got Flash Freeze, we got Yeti Spies, we got plenty of stuff to work with. So you're going to split off a Bond just to kill my Yeti? Or are you going to try and overwhelm me here?
Let them feel your sting!
Alright, we're going to feel his sting. Poor Wump. He gets to take a trip down. Assumably. Yep. Get his head beaten in. Stuff happens sometimes. We'll be okay. I'll go ahead and play my Yeti Spy here. Yeti Sage seems pretty good. I could also just attack in and snowball, and that seems fine too. We lose Pokpok in that exchange, but I don't know. I think I can Yeti Sage and then Snowball and have a pretty good time. Like, we're not hurting too bad as a result of that. And an accelerated impact is still lethal with Flash Freeze, although can't play both at the same time. So Yeti Spy draws some cards. We've got more Yetis pretty close to the top because of Iceberg Mason, hopefully. Surso is Surso. Not really much you can do about that. Twinning Ritual probably gets... oh, more Curioxes. Okay, so he's definitely going to be playing Curioxes for the next couple of turns. That means that we are on the clock to win. That's okay, we got a Cinder Yeti right here. Turns out we got another one right on top. Mason's a pretty fun card. Now, we cannot stop the Curiox. It's got endurance. It's going to be able to stick it out against Cinder Yetis. But we got enough aggression here, combined with the Flash Freeze, that we should be fine. So, Curiox gets endurance. And then Cinder Yeti plus Iceberg Frontrunner wins the game. And good old aggressive Yetis. We don't need to do any flips. Playing some weird decks tonight, but we're playing a weird deck tonight, so pretty okay with that. One more for good measure. We gotta do some flea-ups. Caselli is setting up. I got an Iceberg Mason here, which is dang close to the kind of opener I want. Yeah, we do need to fix this power, I think. We're gonna set it up a little bit better so that we have more chances of actually playing our 1 and 2 drops on time. I like having Champion of Fury influence, but it's not as important as just playing stuff. I think we'll probably cut the Skycrag banners out entirely and replace them with some good old-fashioned power. But, you know, mild changes, mild changes. Crest of Vengeance looks good. And Crest of Wisdom looks like something we can play. I think I play Seed of Fury here, just in case I can draw a... Oh, whoops, I was going to play the Crest of Fury, whoops. Seed of Fury was the one that we actually had a chance of playing. Okay, anyways. Iceberg Frontrunner looks great here. And now we can play Crest of Impulse or Skycrag banner. And since we don't have anything to spend except for a torch, we're going to go ahead and go for Crest of Impulse. Wump Party Starter is absolutely always going to be the life of the party, so we're happy to have him here. Okay, so Skycrag banner gets Wump out.
I've got a clear shot from here.
Let's just do that. Attack for 2. Can get blocked here if we need to be, but he's not actually going to let me do that, which seems funny, but I don't know, you never know. I could have like Trail Story's Temper. Okay, Valkyrie Enforcer silences Wump, which is terrible. And we're going to have to torch ourselves a little bit of a leeway here. I think here I want to Iceberg Mason over Pokpok, so we'll Iceberg Mason. That moves everything up and gives us a little bit more damage. And Crest of Fury gives us the opportunity to take a look at the top card of our deck, which is in fact a Champion of Fury. Okay, so next turn is Champion of Fury, Yeti Sage, and or Pokpok. Valkyrie Justicar isn't gonna hit nothing, so we're totally fine there. Let's go ahead and champ Pokpok. And now I feel pretty happy attacking with both the 2-4 and the 1-2, the 2-3, because we got the snowball, so we're looking pretty good. Now, if he plays conservatively, he won't block the Champion of Fury. But he didn't play conservatively because why would you? Seed of Fury is definitely not a card I want. We're going to go ahead and put that on the bottom. We need to get our accelerated impact so we can do a flip, or we need to get ourselves just a few more Yetis, which are getting a little bit closer to the top of our decks thanks to that lovely, lovely Iceberg Mason. Such a cute card. I really like the art on this card. He's a fun guy. All right, well, let's bump it up. This is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if I want to, I can snowball the Valkyrie Justicar away. But I think I want a Yeti Sage instead, so let's just attack. There we go. Yetis it is. And the Yeti does double damage, that's 2 to face. And delightful Wump Yeti Sage interactions, always fun. Caselli's got Icaria. That's not the card he's looking for. Slay is very good. Actually, it does answer Wump. But not enough there. And who knows, maybe we would have drawn the flip. Alright, that's it for today's brew. Here's a couple of tweaks. We cut out the banners, the Skycrag banners that we were using to help out Champion of Fury, primarily so that we could basically play a little bit more power and possibly get more undepleted power for seats, and get ourselves a little bit more plays on the setup. We also added in 2 backlashes and changed out 2 of the flash freezes for those backlashes, because basically I was just running into an awful lot of Hailstorm and Lightning Storm on the ladder. So, you know, that's something that eventually you'll be able to, you know, this deck will be good or bad based on whether or not Hailstorm or Lightning Storm is popular on the ladder at the time, because it is a card that still wipes out pretty much everything the Yetis are ready to do. Iceberg Mason survives Lightning Storm, but most everything else dies to Hailstorm, and everything dies to Hailstorm except for Pokpok. So generally we want some sort of answers to that, and we want to make sure that there's a little bit more to it than the Eilyn's intervention. But yeah, this deck's a lot of fun. I encourage you to give it a try. It's fairly cheap to build, and if you, again, if you have any issues with it in terms of cost, just swap some of the Yetis out. There aren't that many that are particularly important apart from Pokpok and Iceberg Mason. Basically everything else is interchangeable, and combined with Eilyn's intervention and accelerated impact, you can get a pretty interesting flip going. So thanks so much, have a really good night everyone, and I will see you next time. Feel free to like or subscribe if you like these videos. We'll be back with more brews, both silly and competitive, later on. Cheers.